I want to welcome you guys back to another episode of Pistons Talk Podcast Postgame Show. If you guys are brand new here, you don't know how we do things with these postgame shows. I go over quarter notes and then I open up the show to comments and questions, and we kind of do a Q&A section for you guys, whether it's a comment, a play, overall thoughts with the Pistons still being undefeated. It's 10 straight games now. Definitely leave it down in the comment section, and we'll talk about it after. But let's get into today's post-game show. So what you need to know, Cade Cunningham didn't come back, still dealing with that hip bruise. Asar Thompson is getting closer to returning. He didn't play. Obviously, the normal, Marcus Sasser, Jaden Ivey, they're still dealing with their injuries. Tobias Harris is still dealing with his ankle injury. Bobby Klippman actually rolled his ankle in a G League game. So now Bobby has a sprained right ankle. I mean, protect the Pistons' ankles at this point. Bubble wrap them, wear high tops. I don't know what you got to do, but I swear every time I look at the injury reports, another sprained ankle. But let's get into just this first quarter, right? Jalen Duren. Holy crap, did we miss Jalen Duren? Just his activity, his energy. The Pacers did not have a solution for him. He just went absolutely crazy in this one, double-double tonight. But man, his activity early, I love that because if you kind of just reflect from last year around this time, the conversations we were having, if you guys do remember, was Jalen Duren not being locked in, not being consistent. There'd be nights where, he'd bring energy last season. This season, he really hasn't had that problem. He's been active. He's been locked in. He's been ready to go. And that's what you need out of Jalen Duren. You saw tonight, like, when he has everything rolling, mid-range, post-game, alley-oops, putting someone on a poster, Brandon Knight, you can lay to rest, because I saw another angle of that Benedict Mathurin dunk, and it reminded me of the DeAndre Jordan Brandon Knight dunk. The thing was filthy. If you guys haven't seen the highlight, definitely look it up. Duncan Robinson really early on in this first quarter was hitting threes, and he's been more consistent as of late, which is good to see. I think he's getting more acclimated, getting more used to his new teammates in Detroit. Obviously, we know he played in Miami for his entire career. He's been a really big bright spot to me throughout the season, especially over the last 6 games or so. He's really, put some great games together. Now, the bench unit came in, Paul Reed, Karis LeVert, they brought the energy and gave the Pistons a 26-21 lead to end the first quarter. Going into the second, Pacers went 6 minutes, you guys, without scoring. Now, the Pistons defense was just playing bully ball with them. There was nothing really the Pacers could really do. They do go on a little run there. Stu gets a flagrant foul with Jarris Walker, which I kind of think he sold it. Before Stu even elbowed him, Jarris kind of had his hand up around Stu's collar towards his neck. So, natural reaction is to like, hey, get off me. Stu did get a flagrant penalty one. Not really surprised there. I thought he kind of sold it a little bit, but because Jarris Walker is a big boy. It's like 6'10", 250. But the Pacers kind of went on a run in the second quarter, 14-0 run. They got within 7. And the Pistons said, you know what? Okay, we're not going to lose to the 1-12 Pacers. They get the lead back up to 18, and they surged. And they had a 62-46 lead going into halftime. Pistons never trailed in this game, by the way. It was just a complete domination by a team that's really banged up with injuries and missing the star player, Tyrese Halliburton. But coming out of halftime, Pistons just came out really aggressive, and they had a lead. In the third quarter, I thought it's just like everything was just working, the passing, the defense, the fast break opportunities. LeVert did have kind of a weird fall. I thought he got tripped at first, but I think he just slipped on a piece of ice. Because the Pistons do play at Little Caesars Arena. That's the Red Wings arena. It looked like he just slipped on maybe a wet spot or a piece of ice under the hardwood. Thought he rolled his ankle. I was like, shit, like another rolled ankle, but he was able to get back up and still play in this game, which is a good sign. And I thought the bench really helped the Pistons open up the lead to end the third. It was 93-75. Going into the fourth, Isaiah Stewart's defense, man, just the rim protection tonight with him. So great to have him back. He just brings so much. defensively that I think sometimes I just get caught watching defensive plays by him, and I look at the box score and I'm like, wow, I didn't know he had that many blocks tonight. But he did fall out of this one. Still really felt his impact defensively, especially protecting the rim. He had like 3 blocks on one possession in the fourth quarter. And then Donis Jenkins, man, like I can't say enough good things about him. He has just taken every opportunity that he's been given, whether it's from the Motor City Cruise or the Detroit Pistons, and just made the most out of his opportunities. He really helped the Detroit Pistons close this one to get their 10th straight win, first time since 2008. Your boy was in high school the last time the Detroit Pistons won 10 straight games. BlackBerry was still a phone. Yeah, right. It's been a minute. 127, 112. I think MySpace was still a thing. If you guys remember MySpace, a messenger was probably still a thing at that time, barely. But I mean, it's been a minute since the last time the Detroit Pistons have won 10 straight games. I do want to get into the box score, and then we'll open up the show to comments and questions, because I do know some people like to look at the box scores after these games if you are watching live on YouTube right now. So we can go over it real quick. Duncan Robinson in this one had 13 points, was still a +8, 4 assists, 2 rebounds, 3 out of 11 from 3, 4 out of 12 from the field. Honestly, I'm okay with him taking those shots, because I thought most of the shots were pretty good process. On most nights he probably makes at least like 40% of those. So he still had 13 points in this one. You get a good 12 to 15 points out of Duncan Robinson. I think that's just a win in itself. Isaiah Stewart in this one had 10 points. This is where I want you guys to look at it. So he only had 2 rebounds, but he had 5 block shots. He was a +10 in this one. He had 3 blocks just in that fourth quarter on one possession. Love that for Stu. He's always kind of talked about how he wants to be Defensive Player of the Year, one of the best rim protectors in the NBA, and you have him as a reserve. Obviously, lately he's been starting because Tobias Harris has been injured, but you can just plug and play Isaiah Stewart in so many positions on this team, and he's successful. Ron Holland had 7 points in this one, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. He stuffed the stat sheet in this one. He was a +6 in 31 minutes. Jalen Duren, man, holy crap, what a game. So, first player since Dwight Howard to have a double-double and to finish with 90% from the field. So 31 points, 12 out of 13 from the field, 7 out of 11 from the free throw line, 15 rebounds, 3 assists. Just a complete domination. He was +20 in this one in 29 minutes. Guy was averaging over a point a minute. He was just dominant out there. There's nothing the Pacers could do. Donis Jenkins, another career high for the kid, man. I'm so happy for him. He's on a 2-way right now. He's not going to be on a 2-way for the remainder of the season. Pretty sure the Pistons are going to convert him, but 26 points in this one, 8 assists, 2 rebounds, 1 steal. Just so happy for him. 33 minutes. He led the team tonight in plus minus with the +23. Paul Reed did his thing. He had 7 points and kind of like a reserved role tonight. Obviously, you get Jalen Duren back, so you don't really need Paul Reed as much. Still had 2 rebounds, 3 assists in this one in 13 minutes played. Wendell Moore didn't really score, but, he was still active. He was a +9. He actually led the Pistons reserves and just plus minus with his, defense and rebounding. Isaac Jones got a little bit of run there. One of the guys that we did sign on a non-guaranteed deal, only got 2 minutes of action in this one. Javonte Green had another great game. He had 20 points. Led the bench unit in scoring tonight, 7 out of 11 from the field, 5 out of 5 from the free throw line. 3 rebounds, 2 steals. I've just come to appreciate Javonte Green's game. He might not score, 20, 17 points every game, but when he does, I just think that it's an extra. It's a treat. I just love his compete level. I love his competitiveness in this one. The past 2 games, he's really stepped up big when the Pistons do need it. Karis LeVert had 8 points in this one, shot 50% from the field, had 8 assists in this one. So he's kind of been playing that backup point guard role since Donis has been getting the starting night. He had 5 rebounds in this one. Obviously, those 8 assists to me are huge. Hopefully his ankle's okay because that fall looked really bad. Chaz Lanier had 3 points in this one, played 18 minutes. I've just kind of been impressed with Chaz just because he's a rookie and obviously he's made kind of rookie mistakes, but he's had games where I think he's been in the right rotation. He's been in the right spots. He hasn't really been too overwhelmed. And I think that's great for, the Detroit Pistons in this one. So let's get into comments and questions. So I do see some comments and questions. I am going to go through them real quick. So just give me a second to kind of go through these comments and questions with you guys right now. I do see a lot of you guys is kind of asking some, comments about the game. Obviously, Isaiah Stewart had a great game in this one, but let's get into this part of the podcast. So Bayan has the first comment. Duran is now close to being a $30 million center. I think he's honestly past that now. I know there were reports very early in the summer leading up to the season that Jalen Duran's camp was looking for upwards of $30 million per season. And obviously, like we talked about the extensions all summer, but you can't really deny like he's going out and saying, "Hey, I want to get paid," and he's proving it. Like he's betting on himself. He's proving it. 30 and 15 tonight. If he's giving you a good 20 and 12 and, contesting shots at the rim, his free throw percentage is really good for his center. I don't really think you should have any type of, worry about paying Jalen Duren. I think he's shown you that when motivated, he can, score. He's been the second option. You saw the jump shots tonight. You saw the mid range. You saw the poster dunks. Him putting the ball on the floor. Like Duren has taken that step in development that I think the Pistons really needed. Last year we had talked about, K taking that next step, taking that next gear. This season, it's been Jalen Duren taking that next step in scoring. I wasn't having Jalen Duren penciled in as a close to a 20-point per game scorer this season. I said if he could give you 15 and 13, that's a win in itself. He's giving you close to 20 points a game this season, rebounding the ball, just being a force out there. He turns 22, I believe, tomorrow. Like, I would lock it up. He's still young. He hasn't even entered his prime. Give him that 5-year deal. I don't really know what the figure is, but I mean, you gotta bring Jalen Duren back to me. I think he's well worth over $30 million. My opinion has changed and just what he's been doing this season. You have to give credit where it's due, and he's shut me up. I'm eating my crow. I'm giving him praise, and that's it. That's all. I'll leave it at that. Jay Hart said, yet another great atmosphere in Little Caesars today. A lot of Pacers fans showed up, ironically. I mean, it's kind of close to Indiana, so I get it. The fact that Pacers fans even showed up to the game kind of shows their dedication. They have one win this season. Obviously, losing Tyrese Halliburton sucks. I mean, that's their engine to their team. I hated that for them, especially watching the NBA Finals, because I really thought. I know this is a Pistons podcast, and I'm rambling right now, but I really thought that the Pacers had a really good shot at winning a title. As soon as Tyrese got injured, I was like, yeah, OKC's going to win it, because that series was amazing. I really didn't know who was going to win the championship, but when he did go down, I was like, man, that really sucks. But fortunately, Indiana got their pick back. Thanks, Troy Weaver. The Pelicans made a trade during the NBA Finals, and they got their draft pick back. So even though Indiana is losing a whole lot of games, one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference so far, in November, odds are they're going to be adding a pretty good talent in the top 5. So Indiana is going to be thanking Troy Weaver and Joe Dumars for that draft pick back, because they didn't have their draft pick in 2025. But man, it does really suck. So got a comment. It says, I honestly don't know if we need to make a trade at this point. Thoughts? We still need a piece or two away. I think the thing where I am at with trade conversations and trade talks is this. You just won 10 straight games. You're in 10 straight wins. You're 12-2. I think a strength of your team right now is your depth, right? I would hate to make a quote unquote splash or a big move and you lose your depth, future draft picks. I think the way this team is playing right now, obviously, we know that they're not going to, you know, finish the season 80-2. A loss is eventually going to happen. But I think if I'm Trajan Langdon and the Detroit Pistons right now, I'm just riding it out. Obviously, I think this team is maybe a piece away. That's just my opinion. I think they're one move away from just really kind of like putting themselves in that same conversation is like contenders. And I think more national media will, give them the respect that they deserve. Like we didn't lose last week and we're still fifth in NBA power rankings. Like they had the Knicks ranked above the Pistons. I'm like, okay, I don't really understand that. But the Pistons were only fifth in power rankings by the NBA. Obviously, you had OKC, your Denver's in there, which I get because they're playing really good ball right now, and they're in the Western Conference. But for me personally, I don't really think that making a trade for the sake of making a trade would make a whole lot of sense right now. I think what you're seeing right now during these injuries is the depth of this team, and I think that's a strength. Having a great bench can really get you far, throughout a long NBA season. We're seeing that this week. We haven't had Cade. Tobias has been out since the Mexico City game, and they've won 10 straight games, and it's because of their depth in their bench. So I think I would just kind of hold off on any type of trades. I mean, if there's one that you feel that could really push you over the top, sure, make it. But I don't really think this team is really looking to make that big splash. I think if they do make a trade, it'll just be on the margins. Maybe you get a little bit marginally better and doesn't really cost you a whole lot. I think that's the type of trades that the organization is going to be looking for because in the back of their mind, they know that they have contract extensions, whether that's Jalen Duren that they want to get done, Jaden Ivey has a contract extension. Then you have to worry about Asar Thompson the following year. So there's a lot of money that I'm sure that they want to get locked up with these contract extensions. You got Tobias Harris coming off the books. Like, do you bring him back? I think he's been a really big vet of kind of being that grown up that the young guys need right now. Obviously, I think a lot of people get frustrated with him not scoring as much, but I mean, I'm good with the 13-6, 14-7 on a nightly basis from Tobias, but I'm not really interested in the Lauries that I keep seeing Pistons fans bring up. I'm not really interested in Anthony Davis. I know we talked about that at nauseam. I'm not interested in Jaren Jackson Jr. I'd rather just kind of grow internally, keep letting these guys develop. I mean, getting 30 and 15 from Jalen Duren and you can lock them up. I think that's better than any trade that you could really make right now, in my opinion, anyways, because it's going to cost you draft picks to get a guy like that, right? And you have him right here in your backyard. Iraqi says Tony Bradley is going to have some student nightmares for the week. Tony Bradley, Pistons legend. You guys remember, Tony Bradley was actually a one-time Piston for a minute. I had to look this up during the game. So Tony Bradley was traded to Philly. Forget this. Zaire Smith. That sound familiar? The guy never played. Had a peanut allergy. Got deathly sick. Didn't play basketball for almost 2 years. Last time I looked, he was playing in the G League. But Tony Bradley, the one-time Piston from Troy Weaver. If you guys remember, Troy had like 15 centers at the time during the rebuild in 2020. But yeah, Isaiah Stewart's rim protection. Tony Bradley just did not like the physicality tonight. Jay Hart, is Donis the version of Peyton Pritchard, or was he drafted? I don't remember off the top of my hand if Peyton Pritchard was drafted. I'm pretty sure he was, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I don't know because I don't have Boston Celtics transactions pulled up in front of me. But I can't remember the last time we really had an undrafted player. And this might just sound like I'm not comparing the two, but like if you're talking about undrafted players, like Ben Wallace was an undrafted player. Obviously, we eventually did trade for him. We didn't really have to trade for Donis Jenkins. I think he's just a really good story. I guess people nationally are talking about Donis Jenkins in the same breath as Jeremy Lin. kind of calling it like Jenkins sanity. I don't really think Jenkins is just like a 2 week like a player that plays really well for 2 weeks and then he kind of fizzles out. I think Donis Jenkins, what he's doing, is sustainable. I think he can be your backup point guard. Like he's averaging right now, I believe, like maybe 10-4. Like that's definitely doable if you do ask me. I mean, ESPN today was talking about how Donis Jenkins, as of right now, is better than Dennis Schroeder. Like they were saying, Donis is, playing better than Dennis Schroeder this season. And Dennis was huge for the Pistons in the playoffs. And we lost him. But that you got a guy that's very young in Donis Jenkins. I believe he's only 24 years old, and he's playing really, really good ball. And it's a good against some pretty good players. Like Andrew Nebhart is a very good on ball defender. They got into it tonight. They were talking trash to each other. Donis Jenkins got a technical foul for taunting to the Pacers bench after Duncan Robinson made a three. But I mean, just everything he brings from the playmaking to the 3-point shooting to the defense to the trash talk. To me, I think a lot of Pistons fans just love that type of player, that love the dog mentality that he does bring. And he's on a 2-way contract right now. Obviously, that's not going to last. I think it's only around 30, could be up to 20 games now that he can spend with the team. But I think eventually what you'll probably see is a conversation of either making a move or waiving a player like Isaac Jones to give Donis that last roster spot. Red Baron, I wonder if we see a surprise tomorrow night with more guys coming off the injury report. Would love to see Kate and Sarr lace them up. I would hope so. I'm not really entirely sure if Cade is going to come back. I know JB said that they're getting closer to getting back into action. Obviously, we'll have a back-to-back. We'll be playing Atlanta. Atlanta is actually one of the other teams in the Eastern Conference right now that has been winning more games. Ironically, they're doing it without Trae Young. They're one of the top defensive teams during their run. Jalen Johnson just won Eastern Conference Player of the Week. When that guy's healthy, he is just such a problem. He's a point forward. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dyson Daniels. I know Zachary Richardson got injured. He had a really nasty fall. But, Atlanta has a very interesting team. I think a lot of people kind of, pencil them in as an Eastern Conference, darling this past summer because they had a very good offseason. They retooled. But they're doing it without their franchise player and Trae Young. So it should be a really tough nose battle with the Pistons and the Hawks. I believe that game is on NBC if I remember correctly, but I'm pretty sure the local broadcast FanDuel will have it as well. George and Greg really love calling that man Woo. I mean, it is his nickname. I guess even Mason has been calling him Woo. And I think Mason absolutely loves calling Javonte Green that because, like, when he hits a three, you hear him say, woo. It's kind of funny. It reminds me of, like, the Ric Flair woos that you hear at LCA during Red Wings games. But don't know if Pistons fans will start, doing the Ric Flair woo for Javonte Green. But if they do, man, I'd love it. I really would. Maybe Cade is a roster merchant because this team is stacked. If you guys don't know, like, what Piston Sicko's talking about, there was an opposing fan kind of picking on Cade, saying he's a roster merchant. Like, his team is stacked. Like, the only reason why the Pistons are winning all these games is because he's got good players around him. First he's got a stacked team. 2 years ago, he sucks. They just can't say Cade Cunningham's a good basketball player. I don't really get why people can't acknowledge that, Cade's a good player. I don't understand it. I really don't. Case Crack and the Pistons signed Donis at this point. Yeah, they could. They could waive somebody. They could trade somebody. I think they're gonna wait until that 2-way does expire and then just make a decision on what they want to do, because right now it's not really costing them anything. He can still be on this team technically because he is a 2-way contract, but I think he will probably get a standard contract sooner than later. This year's Duran would have helped in last year's playoffs. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's his first playoffs, obviously. I think there was a lot to take away with just his ability to go up against a Mitchell Robinson and a Karl Anthony Towns. I thought he did a pretty good job, but you're right. I mean, like if you would have got this type of production from Jalen Duren in the first round series against the New York Knicks, you probably beat the Knicks, in my personal opinion, because I don't really know if Cat is going to be defending Duren like the way Mitchell Robinson would have defended him in the first round series. But yeah, I mean, it's great to see the players that you do draft take that next step in development. And then I think that's what a lot of Pistons fans had questions about it in the offseason, myself included. Like, I'm like, who's going to be the player to take that next step? A lot of people penciled in Asar Thompson just because of having a healthy offseason. I don't think too many Pistons fans, maybe very few, had Jalen Duren going from like, barely averaging like 11, 12 points to close to 20 points a game this season. He's really taken that next step and been aggressive like JB Bickerstaff wants him. So I got a question. When Ivy comes back and the season he had before he went down, do you think we sign him to $100 million along with Duren? This is a great question. So I would say this. I think in terms of Jaden Ivey, when he does come back, the Pistons will probably slowly integrate him because he's coming off a cleanup surgery in his knee. To answer your second question, do Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey get $100 million contracts? I don't know. I'm not Trajan Langdon. He said it wouldn't really affect the way that he values Jaden Ivey because of his injuries. He still values him as a plus asset. Same with Jalen Duren. Apparently, talks with both of their agents went really well, and they just said, let's revisit this in the summer. If I did have to guess, JD is definitely going to get extended. Jaden Ivey, I'm not entirely sure because I haven't seen him play meaningful basketball since last January. I mean, we saw him in the preseason against Memphis. He stuffed a stat sheet, but it's preseason, we should be getting an update on him very, very soon. I mean, he's been in these shoot arounds. He's been after practice, he's taking shots. He's getting closer. They're ramping him up. So should get an update on him really soon. I don't really know if the Pistons would offer $100 million. I could be wrong. I just don't know. I don't want to speak on something I know nothing about, but I appreciate the question. Ivy might catch 4 for 80 or a 4 for $100 million deal. Him not playing, this is a huge stretch, hurting his dollars. Yeah, I mean, like some people have that opinion. I mean, Trajan was on the Zach Lowe podcast last month, and he said it didn't really affect his decision to pay Jaden Ivey big money. So I'm just going to listen to the general manager that's running this team. He's not really thinking that it's going to affect like what the Pistons will offer him and his representation. But that's just where I'll leave it at with Jaden Ivey conversations. Jay Hart says, for the love of God, we don't need a trade unless we re-sign Bees, then sure, but that's signing. We are not trading for anyone. Yeah, I this is the first year where I just don't really think making a trade for making a trade for the sake of making a trade, I should say, is really worth it. I mean, you have a team chemistry, it's the all-time high. You have a very deep bench. You have a roster that is showing you they're 1 through 15 deep. And I think making a trade could possibly ruin that team chemistry. Does this team have flaws on the roster? Yeah. But you know how they make up with that? Just trying harder than their opponent. They might not be the most talented NBA roster out there, but the believability in themselves that JB has helped them kind of develop of getting into games, whether they're down 15, coming back, having leads, just playing great defense, holding. I think they held Philly last time we played them to a 15-point quarter. That's excellent defense. Like they've shown the ability to turn it on defensively. That's just my thing with trades. I don't really think that, making a trade just for making a trade because you want a big name or you just want a guy that's averaging 25. I just don't think that the Pistons organization will definitely really do that. That's just me, though. I'll get to a couple more comments and questions, and then I will wrap this up. Um, I do see, Doug kind of give his 2 cents on the trade talk, saying if the Pistons do make a trade, I'm looking for a trade similar to the Giddy trade to the Bulls. I'm not sure what type of player the Pistons are looking for, though. I think it would be even a smaller margin because I feel like the Giddy trade was actually pretty big because you get a perimeter defender in Alex Caruso to OKC, and you're getting a really good player, starter level caliber player in Josh Giddey. I think the trade, if there is one, which I think there will be at the deadline, I think it'll be a very marginal one, whether that's more depth in the front court, whether that's more 3-point shooting. Um, I think Trajan will definitely, evaluate this roster. We're only in November. The deadline's not till February, you guys. Um, I honestly think he will look at like a possible weakness with this team, but I really don't think they'll just do one just to make one. I don't think it's going to be a big splash. Like if the Pistons were, let's just say, like a 6 seed right now, and they wanted to get up to like a 3rd seed or a 4th seed, yeah, maybe they might put some chips on the table and try to compete because the Eastern Conference is a little bit weaker. But as of right now, I think the team that they have, the roster that has been put together by Trajan Langdon since he's gotten here, adding more veteran pieces, I should say. I think it's good. Like the young guys are taking steps in development that you want. The vets that you brought in Karis LeVert, Duncan Robinson, and Javonte Green are complementing the young guys without taking away from them. I don't really think that Trajan's looking to, make that quote unquote big splash. I just don't. I don't think it'll be this year. It might be in the summer, maybe. If the contract negotiations with some of your young guys kind of go south, or you just can't, meet in the middle. But I don't really think they're going to make a trade just for making a trade. I do want to wrap this podcast up, but I do appreciate you guys, coming on in for the last 32 minutes or so. We'll be back tomorrow with another Pistons post-game podcast because they do play again against the Atlanta Hawks, second night of a back-to-back. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Take care. And as always, go Pistons. Peace.